John, I've been getting a lot of emails from people who really appreciate your by the numbers analytical approach. Wow, the video looks really good today. You must be on a good VPN. But people really appreciate your by the numbers analytical approach of the official data from the CDC. And I want to clarify again, it's not a matter of you agreeing with this data. You're saying this is the data that they are using. So therefore, if we find problems in this data, it becomes problematic for people like Fauci, et cetera, to explain how they arrive at these conclusions. How are you tonight, John?
I think I'm okay. I think I'm all right. Certainly I don't have any dramatic symptoms.
Good.
But
Oh yeah, you
yeah,
said you
but
felt like you might have coronavirus last week.
yeah, yeah. I can tell you, I still feel something in my body. I don't know if I'm being hypochondriac or whatever, but I still feel it,
Yeah.
and it's been weeks and weeks and weeks. So I don't know how to describe it, but in fact, I do know how to describe it. Um, in the summertime, when you go to the beach, I'm assuming you've been to the beach, you've been to Jones Beach or the
I've
Hamptons or
been to
something,
the
right?
beach with you in Thailand.
That's right. All right, so we go in the water, and when you come out of the salt water and you don't have an opportunity to take a shower, and then you put your cotton t-shirt on with
Itchy.
salt water, and it has that tacky kind of feel on your skin. That's how I feel all the time.
Hmm.
So kind of like the Stephen Wright
Maybe it's
joke
your
about,
laundry
yeah.
detergent.
No, I don't think that's what the problem is. So I haven't changed laundry detergent. So,
Maybe that's the
but
problem.
yeah, enough about me. I want to talk about numbers and I want to talk about maps.
Right.
Tonight's show in the patron only hour, we're going to dig in to not only the Johns Hopkins map. So in the patron only hour, we're going to do some on the fly custom map making. And I'm going to show the audience how to make maps the correct way. And I'm going to show the audience how you can make a map that's rather deceptive. And so we've got a number of different systems queued up tonight to show the audience various different ways to visualize the data, right? And I'm going to show you how to do it the right way, how to do it the wrong way, and then how to do it the deceptive way. And that's what we're going to dig into in the patron. Yeah, this is beautiful. That's perfect. Oh, I love this. So this is just a perfect example of how not to do it. And I'm going to show you how to get this right. So we're going to go into this live tonight. And this is going to be one of those things where I'm going to talk Jason through it. Like he's flying the aircraft and I'm at the FAA tower and I'm going to talk him into the landing. And we're going to have Jason make some custom changes to the map. So we're
Cool.
going to do that. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. And I've got a whole bunch of different maps and stuff that you've already got queued up here, which is great. So we're going to do that in the patron only hour. And we're going to review the numbers that are coming out of the CDC. And I think most importantly, the numbers that are coming out of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. And I don't know if can you bring up the Johns Hopkins panic map? I'll show you guys just kind of a couple quick insights that you might take away from it, just real fast. If we go to the Johns Hopkins map of doom.
Yeah. I noticed you also had some stuff from Carnegie Mellon. We should try to get back in touch. I mean, everything has shifted to exclusively coronavirus, but we never really
For
followed
now.
up with that guy who is studying
Oh
at the
yeah,
Bill Gates Center of Falsifying Las Vegas Evidence.
I haven't forgot. I've got, believe me, I can't wait. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing has been a distraction for a lot of cases and a lot of topics. But this too will pass, and when it passes, we're going right back there. So what's somewhat fascinating is the role of Johns Hopkins and the role of Carnegie Mellon in putting forward a certain degree of credibility because it's coming from the university. And so it seems as if it's like this new technique that if it comes from Carnegie Mellon or it comes from Johns Hopkins, well, then it must be, you know, tip top, right? It's got to be amongst the best of the best.
Hmm.
And so we're going to take a closer look at the system today. I'll show you just a couple things. Let's take a closer look at the US. On the left side, if you click on the US on the left, and then if you go to the bottom of that list, there's three different tabs, 1, 2, and 3, all the way down below the word Switzerland. You'll see three little tabs. Go to the middle one, and then click on New York. Okay. So in America, there's what I didn't see the number as we were back 60 something thousand are dead now. And of that, 24,000 are in New York.
It's
It's a
huge.
pretty, yeah, it's a big piece of the American problem right now. So if you just click on the word New York again, so no on the left side, yeah.
Huh.
Okay, so we get 64,600 dead. And of the 64,600 dead, about a third of those are in New York, give or take, rough and tough. Now, if you click on the next worst looking state on the left side of the screen, which is New Jersey, how many do we have dead in New Jersey right now? So you click
7,000.
there, okay, and then go to Massachusetts.
3,000.
All right, so 10,000 in the top New Jersey, Massachusetts combined, 10 or 11,000, another 25,000 in New York. So that's 35,000. That's half of America in three states. Half of the deaths in the United States are represented by New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. Now, if I'm wrong, I need you to stop me.
Well, I just wanted to ask, do you know if these death numbers include the United States Constitution? Because that died this morning right outside City Hall when the police were enforcing an
I saw
illegal
that.
and unconstitutional order from Governor
I was,
Cuomo.
I was quietly watching that, yes. So it's tragic, right? I mean, the tragedies are numerous. But again, the perspective that I think is needed here is that there are a number of locations that are experiencing a rather dramatic sickness, a rather dramatic epidemic. But that's not really happening in Idaho. That's not really happening in Wyoming. That's not really happening in Montana or South Dakota, right? And so I think it's important, in the world of management, there's something called situational leadership. And you use different techniques for different circumstances and for different people with different tenure and different skills. And so situational leadership applies here as well, meaning the governors, the whole notion of states' rights are based on states' responsibilities, right? So the governor of Idaho, the governor of Wyoming has a completely different set of challenges than the governor of New York and Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And they therefore should have different plans, different equipment, different needs, different budgets, etc. And I think that when we look at the United States as a whole and we look at these big numbers and we see a lot of red, it's very easy to come to the conclusion that, oh my God, America is really going through a rough time here. But when we zoom in and we say, well, wait a second, is it New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts? What do I can't read it. California. Who are the top three or four or five? It's
Um,
Pennsylvania, Michigan, New
well,
Jersey,
yeah, New York, New Jersey,
Connecticut.
Massachusetts, Illinois, California, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Florida, Texas, Connecticut.
Yeah. But even when you get down to Texas and Florida, the numbers are starting to become,
Wait a minute.
uh,
This
you
is
know,
not in order because Texas says 840 and Connecticut says
it's an order of number of
2339.
cases, not dead. It's an order of
Got
number
it.
of cases, not the number dead. Okay, so now let's go back up to New York. Click on New York on the top. All right, so this is our worst scenario, is New York. And with 60 something thousand people dead, I think one of the takeaways I want the audience to understand is you can take New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and you've got half of the problem in 5 states, right? So we're going to penalize those other 45 states and keep them locked up, and you can't go to the park and you can't go fishing. You can't go fishing in just how is that a risk? I don't understand that. But anyway, let's keep going back to the map. I want to go. Remember, you went to the tab on the bottom and you clicked on that middle tab. We want to go back to the main tab on the left, and let's go back to the big number. So if you click on US again, we should get back to our big number in the sky. Click on Italy or any other country, and it'll kind of reset the map.
Got it.
And then again, and then one more
Okay,
time.
there
There
we
you
go.
go. Okay. All right. So we've got 1.1 million cases in America and 64,000 people dead. Now, underneath the map in the middle, you'll see a bunch of tabs: active cases, recoveries. There you go. And so this is some new information,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
different
And
colors.
so,
They've been watching the
oh,
show, John. Fauci has got to get
paying
onto
attention.
Patreon and Subscribestar.
Yeah. And I want to thank Dr. Fauci for his support. So now you're seeing different colors, right? And these different colors are going to show us different things. And each one of these tabs across the bottom has a different ratio or a different combination of things that they're showing. So one of them, I think, shows active cases, incident rate, right? So
Hmm.
let's go to active cases, because cumulative cases has been going for months and months and months and months. So
Ah,
active,
right.
right? So active cases are really a little bit more interesting. So let's see if we go to America and we zoom in and we look at active cases. What do we got going on? And how many people have recovered? See if we can figure that out.
I mean, isn't this is what we're on? This is U.S. active
Yeah.
cases. It says total results. Where does it tell me who's recovered?
You got to click on one of the dots. You got to pick a colored dot and click.
Ah,
Bingo.
well, 164,015 recovered,
Mhm.
900,000 active, 64,000 deaths.
Okay. All right. Now let's go take a look at some of the countries in Europe and let's see how they're doing. All right. So let's zoom into Europe and see. hmm And if you click on any one of those and zoom in a little bit, we'll see how many people they've got active cases versus recovered cases. And what this is going to give you an indication of is if you've got a lot of people who are recovered, maybe Germany is a good choice, or France, or Spain, any one of Italy, Spain, France, Germany, any one of those, just click, boom, there you go. All right, so now you've got how many active cases versus recovered cases, and this is going to give you an indication of about how far along they are in their maturity cycle, right? They've got 90,000 active cases. That's a lot, but 50,000 people have already recovered.
Hmm.
All right, so they've got more active cases than recovered, and they've got 24,000, almost 25,000 deaths. But that's out of 167,000 cases, right? So
Mhm.
that France is not out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination with 91,000 cases and 25,000 people dead. They are not no way out of the woods, right? Now, if you go to Germany, you're going to see a very different story. Check out Germany.
Whoa, this map is just so difficult to
You know
control.
what I think? Yeah, it could be your mouse zoom sensitivity setting or some crazy
I'm
thing
not
like that. I don't know.
changing it to accommodate Fauci's stupid map.
I don't blame you. So, see, you were right next to Germany a second ago. You were right there.
I'm adjusting like 40 other things over here as well to get back to there.
There
Okay.
you go. Okay, there you go.
That's Germany, right?
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So look how many people are recovered in Germany. And out of about the same number of cases,
Huh.
a fraction of the number are dead. Okay.
Hmm.
So this is what I would call best practices. Best practices are you're looking for what countries have demonstrated the ability to keep the number of deaths fairly low. They have a fairly high number of recovered cases compared to active. That means in the case of Germany, you see, they're tapering off now, right? So they've got fewer active cases than recovered people. That's good. That's where we want to be, right? We want to have a big recovered number that's close to a million, and very few active is where we're heading, right? So we got to get that green number up, the recovered cases. That's what we want to see,
I think there might
right?
be a problem with the simulcast, John. I'm just checking that right now. We also should remind people that in just a little while, we are going to be starting. Something didn't take on the simulcast. There's 12 people waiting
We'll
over
fix it.
there. We'll fix it
It's all right.
later.
We'll fix it.
But John, in just about 15 minutes, we're going to carry on with the sponsor exclusive segment on patreon.com/I am John Cullen, patreon.com youtube.com/crowdsource the truth, and subscribestar.com for both of us as well. Got to thank all of the generous sponsors that make the show possible. And the purpose really behind this viewer sponsorship is to eliminate any kind of financial influence that an outside corporate sponsor might have. For instance, if Johns Hopkins University wanted to sponsor the show for $50 million, it's pretty reasonable to presume that they're not going to want stories about how their information is wrong. So by eliminating corporate sponsors and relying on our viewers to be individual micro-sponsors, we've eliminated what I feel is an important barrier to getting to the truth in news reports.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think the model's great, and I'm so grateful to the patrons and to you for making this happen. If it wasn't for you, I've said it before, I would never have been able to do this. So
well, you're too kind. I appreciate your input as well. This is a cooperative effort between myself, the co-hosts, the viewers. That's why it's crowdsourced the truth. We're all coming together to do this, and I agree with you. It's been working very well. So we've got just a couple more minutes here, John. Is there anything that you wanted to cover, sort of take us out before we continue with the sponsor exclusive segment?
Sure. I want to give everybody a little bit of a heads up as to what you're going to see in the next week or two. If you go to Drudge Report, you're going to see them predicting that we're going to hit something along the lines of 100,000 deaths from COVID. That's the new prediction number, that when all is said and done, we should be at 100,000. And that's what Drudge was reporting earlier today.
Pandemic could last 2 years. How do they know that? Where are they getting this?
Well,
blood tests to fly? I mean, they're going to make you get that chip.
Yeah, well, so let's talk about all of that for a moment, right? So before we get to the air travel and the chips and the blood tests on the air travel, let's just kind of roll back to the basics, right? They're talking about potentially 100,000 deaths from coronavirus. And the challenge that I have had, my cognitive dissonance this whole time, is that if it's so virulent, if it's so contagious and it's so deadly, why is it that no one seems to be dying of it in Mongolia or Laos or Cambodia or Vietnam, or the numbers in places like Bangladesh just don't seem that high? And when I start comparing the number of cases in India to Long Island, and India has 1.36 billion people and fewer cases than Suffolk County, which is where the Hamptons are, I scratch my head and I say, this doesn't add up right. Something's wrong here as far as if this was as contagious and as virulent as we're being told. We should see people sick in Vietnam. We should see people sick in Laos and Cambodia.
How am I not sick? I've been hanging out.
How are you not?
Homeless
exactly.
people,
You're all
cops.
over the place, talking to everybody, confronting everybody. Exactly. You're going in and out. Yeah, you should be. I mean, again, you could have it be asymptomatic, not know it, and you may have spread it to 20 people and have no idea. We don't know this, and I'm not getting tested, and I don't think you are either. So, end of the day here, the numbers don't add up. And I guess the way I look at it is similar to, you know what? Here's a perfect example. I'm going to give a metaphor to the audience and leave this with the audience for a second to think about. If you were to pull up an image of one of the most famous chess games in history that ended in a draw, the most famous chess draws in history, okay, and you get an image of that chessboard, and you bring that up and you look at that for a second, and a draw in chess is where neither player can really achieve a checkmate, right?
I didn't realize that was possible. I'm not really a chess.
Oh yeah, and there's a whole bunch of famous draws in chess where they just weren't able to get, no one's able to win, right? And the guys who are out there who are listening that play chess are probably laughing at me butchering the explanation. But at the end of the day, there's something called a draw in chess, and the board, you can go no further, right? Well, if you were to can you pull up an image of just a board that's set up for a draw? Like a technical drawing of a board, of a chessboard draw. It's usually a top-down view. Chessboard draw. Exactly. That's it. Perfect. Okay. So let's say that this is a draw in chess. It's not going to be immediately obvious. It takes a second to sit there and look at each piece and think, okay, I can move this guy here and this guy there, and I could slide him here, but then they're going to go here. It takes a minute to figure this out, that this is a draw. It doesn't jump off the screen at you, even as a chess player, to say, oh, that's a draw. We walk away and shake hands. It takes a second to look at the interaction between all these pieces. And for me, the data is like this. When I'm studying these numbers and I'm looking at week in, week out, and I'm looking at COVID and I'm looking at influenza and I'm looking at previous year's influenza, I'm looking for outliers. I'm looking for things in the data that are jumping out at me, and they're there. And when you see these things that jump out at you in the data, then you start to explore. So let's take a close look. We may have one more minute before we go to patron only. But if you go to one of those CDC links that I sent you for the CDC maps, just pull up any one of them. They're all good. Any one of those, except for that
This
one.
one?
That's China. No, that's
Okay.
China. CDC is blue. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Okay, so here, this data is weekly data, right? And this is influenza surveillance report data. And if you click the left arrow and go back a couple, on the top, it's like a slider, that red thing. Yeah. So if you go back a couple weeks, you'll see it gets real chocolatey brown if you go back. There we go. There we go. All right. So we had a super widespread influenza season this year. But as we've been talking about on this show now for weeks, no one has been acknowledging that. And now I think I understand why. And we're going to talk about that in the patron only hour, as to why has Dr. Fauci, why did the media drop the discussion on influenza entirely? Why did they just not talk about it?
Didn't Dr. Birx announce that they were no longer going to track influenza because they're so busy tracking coronavirus, COVID-19,
Exactly.
novel SARS, whatever?
Yes. And they've also already published estimates for this year's flu season. And the estimates for this year's flu season range from anywhere from 24 to 61,000 deaths. And I feel like when you say 24 to 61,000, that's like saying I'll stop by sometime between, Monday and Wednesday. I'll be at your place. It's like 24 to 61,000. Exactly. It's like, what kind of range is that? 24 to 61,000 is a ridiculous range. And it's not backed up by any of the data.
Well, it speaks to the inaccuracy of their estimates. We do have to stop here, though, because we need some time to reset over to Patreon and Subscribestar. And want to remind people, we're going to also get the this onto John's channel after the broadcast. But for people who are with us right now, please join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, or of course, Subscribestar and Patreon/crowdsource the truth. We'll be back in just 5 minutes, so head over there. We'll see everybody on the sponsor exclusive show. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.